if it weren't for that, like, I and a lot of my homies would be dead. You know what I mean? Like, if it weren't for Suboxone. Let's do this damn thing.
Yeah. Above and below, we're here with Paulie Think. Yeah. Take one. Just got done spitting fire in the microphone. Right?
Yes, sir. Yeah, I was playing. I was in Austin playing at Metropolis. You know that joint on the east side? I know you all know Metropolis. But so it was DJ Berlin. He's been living there for like 11 years or something. But he throws a networking pool party every year. And so I got to play the one this year. It felt great to like be out in the sun and hanging out with people and fucking like doing some art and shit. You know, like. And it felt, and honestly, it was good to be back in Austin too, because there was a few homies there, you know. And it's like good to see y'all too, because I haven't seen y'all in a long time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Congrats on the new crib.
Appreciate you.
Above and beyond, doing things, man.
Yeah,
shout out, much respect, salute. Used to be homeless drug addicts, and now they bought a fucking big ass house. So anything can be done.
Yeah.
For real. Yeah, that shit made me happy as hell when I saw it.
All right. So where you from, Paulie?
So my mom's side of the family is from Chicago, and my dad's side of the family is from Memphis. So I'm a Chicagoan Memphian for the most part. But I lived in Portland, Oregon for 4 years. That's the first time I got some real sobriety. And then I lived in Vallejo, California for like a year and shit. And Connecticut for like 6 months working on the DIY Bennett's label.
So you were using drugs in Chicago and Memphis?
No, Memphis, I was, my dad, piece of shit, racist, just garbage, like, neglected, like, me, and then, like, his next wife and kids, you know, like, my half-brother and half-sister. I just call him my brother and sister, but, yeah, he's just a complete piece of shit in so many ways. So, I only lived with him for 3 years, from when I was 13 to 16.
Okay.
So I was pretty young, like, but I started smoking weed, like, in Memphis, like, I remember going down to the park, and, of course, like, the drug dealer that was selling the Thai steak weed, which is, you don't really hear about that shit no more.
Thai steak is opium.
Yeah, it was like wrapped around weed.
Together,
Yeah. I haven't heard, like, I forgot about that shit. Someone mentioned it at the Rivies. The Rivies are the apartments I live in San Antonio.
Like House songs talking about
high school. Yeah, I forgot about that shit. But so I hadn't really like fully taken off yet. But there was. I was like 14 or whatever, like going to the park down the street, and there was a drug dealer there that sold Thai steak, and of course he gave us the first one for free. And then, like, the next time I saw him, too, in the park, I just, like, ran up to him all like, hey, man, can I have another one? And my homie's like, no, dude, you got to pay. But, so, just like a lot of people started off with weed and fucking wine coolers. And first alcohol I actually drank was, we broke into a priest's house down the street. And that was some of the first time I saw porn, too, because he had a big old stack of Playboys, this was like in the 70s or something, you know what I mean? I was like 9 or some shit, yeah. And he had a bunch of booze in there, so got drunk and watched porn and saluted God.
The reason I'm like, damn, going to the hood in Chicago and going to the hood in Memphis to start out, that's pretty rough, because I've been to Tennessee, Knoxville, and this shit's rough.
Yeah, Memphis is no joke. I mean, my dad taught me how to shoot pistols at age 14. I had to keep a pistol under my pillow and shit. Mm-hmm. And he would just like leave for like a week long or whatever and just leave me there like fucking preteen and shit, He's like, put this under your pillow, and if anyone comes to the window, fucking blast them. It's just like, damn, bro, okay, this is my life at 14 years old, you know what I mean? Like, but it was what it was, you know what I mean? Like, yeah.
When did you move back to Chicago?
Oh, that was way later. There was a whole bunch of drama that happened in Memphis. Like, this Kansas City Mafia dude tried to, like, murk me and was gonna murk me, and it was like these stolen guns and all this crazy shit. And I figured out who it was and actually like arranged it with his new girlfriend to like get him back the guns and like so I didn't get murdered. It was like a stereotypical shit. Like he rolled up on me like in a Lincoln Continental and shit, like sipping on a fucking martini. And he was like, he rolled up on me and he was like, yo. And I was like, what? And I knew who it was. It's like my homie's dad, like, and he beat the shit out of his son. So I was like, he was living with us. You know what I mean? His kid. So he's all pissed off at me. And I thought he was setting me up because, like, he was like, he pulled the gun out of the fucking glove box and was like, I know you stole my guns. If I don't have them back by Monday, you're dead. You know what I mean? And so he ended up like shooting at me like later in the afternoon. Like I got away and then like I said, I was able to get him back the shit. And the kid that stole them, like he had to sneak out for us to get the guns back to the mafia guy. And when he was going to sneak back up in his house, I like grabbed him, pulled him down and beat the shit out of him. You know what I mean? Because he almost got me killed and shit. And then that dude fucking lit my crib on fire when I was in it like a week later. And
did it burn to the ground?
Yeah, it was that whole apartment building burnt to the ground. And I was like masturbating and shit. I was like 16. I was like, and
how you do it, 16.
Huh?
That's how you do it.
Exactly. But actually right before that, the Memphis police like raided my house too and like were like, where's the guns? Like, you know, and they like tackled me and had pushed down, you know, my door and like tackled me and had guns to my head. I was like 16, you know what I mean? And they were like, where's the guns? And I'm like, what are you talking about? Because this is before, that was right before I ran into dude later into the day who was like, I know you stole my guns. You know what I mean? Because I was like, what the fuck is going on? And then I just thought he was setting me up because I was letting his kid stay with me because he was beating the shit out of his kid. You know what I mean? But they disappeared like after that and then never heard from him again, you know? And I know that's not really like drug related, but I guess it's that street life or whatever. You know what I mean?
So then you decided to move to Chicago?
No, so from there, me and my dad, we kept colliding and shit, you know? Like took LSD like at 16. And then honestly, one of the scariest drug experiences I've ever had was on fucking Robitussin.
Really?
Yeah, when I was 16, I was at some like punk party in Midtown Memphis and these fucking scary ass skinheads showed up and shit. And like, I drank one of them bottles and like, I was a little fucking, I'm scrawny and shit. You know what I mean? Like, I could fight, you know, but I was still a youngster, you know. These dudes were like big and fucking scary. I had just gotten into like punk, you know what I mean? So I was just kind of like around that. Like the first punk show I went to was at the Antenna Club in Memphis. Millions of Dead Cops who were from Austin. Yeah, there was like skinheads with razor blades and shit in there. You know what I mean? It was fucking nuts back in the day, you know, like. It wasn't the bubblegum fucking festivals.
Emo.
Motherfucking, there was some psychos up there, you know. But anyways, yeah, so, you know, I was like, got into that whole shit. And me and my dad, we just kept headbutting, you know. And I was like, I was already into like hip hop, you know. I'd been breakdancing and shit like that. And I started getting into punk rock. And, you know, it's contrary to all that racism and, you know, sexism, whatever, homophobia, all that bullshit. You know what I mean? All that dumb shit.
Fascist.
You know, yeah, all that fascist crap. Yeah. So, anyways, it was '86. There were some other like punks in Memphis. Yeah, it's 1986.
I seen the picture.
Oh yeah. That was that time. That was that time.
Yeah.
I was actually like sober and shit, and I picked.
But you guys all had like your. Like Black Flag or Sid Vicious shit on and all that. Yeah.
Oh, I know what picture you're talking about. Yeah, that was Rob. He was one of the Polish punks. Yeah, from Poland.
Mohawk.
Polish punks were wild as fuck in Chicago. Like, oh my god, they would like have sex on the fucking bowling alley lanes at Fireside Bowl, which is like where like Fall Out Boy came out of, fucking Suicide Machines. I don't know. Myself, I'm not big like those guys stuff. It seems like everybody around me got famous except for me, which is probably good, honestly. And I've had like some ex-partners and shit be like, I'm glad you never really like blew up because you probably would have killed yourself with the money. And they're fucking exactly right.
I would have to say they're right on the money. Just from knowing you the way that
Right. Yeah. So I ran away. This punk chick that had like the Misfits skull like spray painted on the hood of her car and shit. Like, she gave me a ride to St. Louis and dropped me off there. I remember that day it was so fucking humid, and people were talking shit to me about my mohawk and stuff like that. Like, you know, just like that's the way it was, you know, back then. Like if you were punk, like you were fighting, like. You know what I mean? Like, you better learn it, you know, because it was like pretty much daily, you know, like, oh, you're, you know, homophobic slur, blah, 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 you know, and I, like, literally, like, 40-year-old dudes pulling over on the streets of Memphis, like, wanting to fight a teenage kid on a fucking skateboard, you know what I mean? So I got, you know, I ended up, like, I never brought my pistol out with me just because I was always scared of using it.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Just because I'd get real... I had to, you know what I mean? It's like survival, you know what I mean? It'd just be like, if someone started to come, you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, it's not happening. So I had, you know, some crazy, like, switchblade type knives, but thicker, like army ones. So they were more stable and shit. And then, like, yeah, they come at me and I'd be like, right away, have it up, you know what I mean? Like, up to the night, what's up, dog? Okay, let's go. You know what I mean? And then they're like, oh my God, this kid's fucking psycho, you know? Then they'll go drive off. But, yeah, so anyways, fucking, got up to took a Greyhound to Chicago, and
how long did that take?
Oh God, dude, I don't even know. That was a long time ago, but the Greyhound, what a nightmare. But anyways, yeah, that's
probably like close to 72 hours or something, or
it's not that far. It's only a 6-hour drive, right? So.
Oh, really?
But shit, so much shit can happen on the Greyhound where it literally could end up being 72 hours from a 6-hour trip. You know.
You have to lay over for.
Yeah, just shit breaking down and. But anyways, got to Chicago. I stayed with my godma for like a week, and then she just couldn't really like take care of me. You know what I mean? Like, she's cool and shit, but she had her own kids and shit. You know. But so I was just on the streets, and I had met some punks in Milwaukee. Like, they just had a cool scene popping there too. You know what I mean? And like, so I went up there and hooked up with some like street punks that I knew, and was just like, you know, mobbing with them. We would drink every night and go fight Nazi skinheads and shit, you know, because then we had a gang of us, you know what I mean? So we were like, they weren't scary to me, you know. Well, they were still scary to me, but like you know what I mean? I wasn't alone and shit, you know. So, yeah, and I eventually, after just like tearing up the city with these cats, just fucking having a great time, you know what I mean? Because I was homeless and shit, but like homeless then like was so much different than being like homeless and active addiction, you know what I'm saying? Because I was like into these like this new music, and I was like getting my mind opened up and meeting some really fucking rad people, and like I didn't have to be in school, you know what I mean? I was like, you know, we just like kicked it and listened to music and drank and smoked, you know, and dropped acid and shit, and yeah, so I eventually got locked up in juvie in Milwaukee, and I was pretty scared because I was alone, you know what I mean? And there's a lot of gangbanging in Milwaukee and shit, like Chicago too, like all that shit. But you know, so yeah, the guards were like yelling at me and, you know, calling me this and that because of my mohawk, and you know, don't move your hands above your elbows and shit, you know, like all this, you know, obviously like you can't even make a peace sign or whatever, you know. But yeah, so I was in there for a few weeks, and then they put me in a halfway house, and I remember like asking some of the kids that were there, like, you know, what's up with this place, you know, or whatever, and they're like, if you know, you're good, you know, basically if you're a good boy, you know, in like 3 weeks you might get a pass to go see a movie or something, you know what I mean? And I was like, fuck that, I'm out this bitch, shave my mohawk, you know what I mean? Like, and I did, I fucking went running out that bitch, and then like the alarm went off and stuff, and I heard like a siren or whatever, like, I don't know if it was for me or not, but I thought it was at that time, you know what I mean? I was like, because I had to run across this bridge, and I knew this punk kid that lived right over there, and I got there, and like some of the punk homies were there, and I was like, you gotta shave off my mohawk and shit, you know what I mean? Like, But they still scooped me up like a week later because they still recognize, they recognized all of us, because we were, a problem or whatever.
Sure.
But yeah, that was before it, man. That was a great time, man. Like, honestly, like, I had a great time being on the streets at that time. Like, I really fucking enjoyed it because I was young too. You know what I mean? So it didn't hurt my body. I could fucking put my head on a fucking curb and pass the fuck out. You know what I mean? And be content and be like, wake up and like, yeah, let's go. After drinking a fucking 40 of fucking poison, Old English or some shit. You know what I mean? Yeah, but yeah. So.
When did you first get into like real street narcotics, IV, IV drugs?
So yeah, that was later. I was a late bloomer, and like I was mentioning about like punk rock and shit and like politics and it opened my mind and shit like that. Like I knew that and that was one of the cool things that my dad taught me, like. Because he had dealt drugs with the CIA and shit. Like, he was a devil, dude. You know what I mean? Like, I shot, like, the CIA issued fucking nickel-plated fucking 38s and shit. You know what I mean? That he brought home. And, but that's one thing. I was like, hey, Dad, what's up with the CIA? You know what I mean? And he was like, it's a legalized mafia. You know what I mean? Like, he told me that when I was 14, so like that. And then when I started getting in punk shit and started learning, I started finding out more about that. So I was, like, really opposed to hard drugs because I knew how they, like, governments, in the shadows used hard drugs to control populations. You know what I mean? Especially, like, if they're starting to get rowdy and shit, which is, like, what they did, like, during Vietnam when mad people were getting opposed, more and more people getting opposed to the war. They, like, upped the fucking heroin supply and the shitty street drugs, and people went from, like, peace-loving hippies to, like, scandalous street freaks is what they're called, street freaks then. You know what I mean? They're doing speed and different drugs and like robbing each other and fucking killing each other over shitty drugs. So yeah, the hard shit I didn't get till I did a little cocaine at like 25, but that's when I started with heroin too, and that was like, that's the one, yo. Like, that's, you know what I mean?
Not that late.
But compared to like a lot of kids now. Because this was 95. This was 1995. So this was before it, like, really, like, came out of the hood. You know what I mean? Like, you had to go, like, to the Cabrini Green projects or the west side of Chicago.
If you wanted to get
right. Yeah, exactly. And the fucking lazy pigs would just, like, wait outside of the projects and be like, oh, there's a white person. Let's shake them down. You know what I mean? And there goes another number. We didn't have to do shit except for sit our fat asses in the car and watch them walk out here. You know what I mean? And then fucking beat the shit out of, you know what I mean? Like, back then, like, yeah, the Chicago police, they, if you were a heroin addict, like, you were the worst fucking thing in the world. You know what I mean? Like, they would kick the shit out of you and fucking, oh, you robbed my cousin, didn't you? Da-da-da-da. You know what I mean? Just all kinds of bullshit. But a bunch of fucking goons. But anyways, yeah, dude. It was
in Chicago?
Yeah, this is in Chicago, yeah. Cabrini Green's projects that's where Candyman.
I think I've seen those.
That's where Candyman, the movie's like based at and shit.
I have seen a documentary on those projects.
Yeah, they're like the hardest, pretty much like the hardest core projects.
10 worst in America.
Oh, easy. I would say like in the top 3. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That shit was a gangster as fuck. And okay, yeah.
I think they tore them
I'll get
down
back
now.
Yeah, they're gone. It's some of the most expensive real estate. Mm-hmm. So, but back when it was all black, the city wouldn't even fix the basketball hoops in the park and shit. But now that it's a super Target and fucking condos, super rich white people, you know what I mean? They get whatever the fuck they want. You know what I mean? Yeah. I was getting these nickel Freddy Kruegers, so they were $5 bags of heroin, and I would get a few of them. But
Did you get jumped over there and shit? Like,
oh yeah. I got kidnapped twice at gunpoint, and fortunately I was able to fucking get away. Both times I didn't think I was going to, but yeah, just some jackers and shit. And
I mean, a lot of jackers up there. Did you ever like experience the type where like the D-boys would have their illegal or whoever stand at the corner, and then you guys all line up and like?
Are you talking about an undercover cop selling us dope?
No.
Oh, you're talking about a dope spot, open air?
I've heard several stories.
Oh yeah, like, Chicago was totally yeah.
all of a sudden, you know,
dude,
you'd be in an alleyway, buying from some dude, and then, you know,
jump out, boys.
Dude, so many times, dude. So many times. I mean, you just get basically chased by a bunch of dudes that look like the Dropkick Murphys, fucking Irish cops and shit, like wearing Bears hoodies, and like I said, they're like all from this one neighborhood, like Mount Greenwood it's called, and they actually like voted for a fucking actual Nazi. He got 52,000 votes from that fucking neighborhood, and that's where most of the Chicago police live. Straight up Nazi cops. Like, this is like 4 years ago.
I mean, compare that to the old Chalmers Courts. I mean,
so Chalmers Courts.
That's what I'm used to.
So
for old Chalmers
for people
Courts.
for people that don't know, Chalmers Courts was, I used to call them Projects Light. They were like these little projects on the east side of Austin, and I loved them. I used to hang out there when I was getting high. You know, like there was this guy Randy, and you knew Randy, and just used to get high up in the house. It was basically a little trap house. I also had to go over there too to get my homeboy's laptop back from a crack dealer. You know, like because he had relapsed. I was sober at that time, and my homeboy relapsed on crack for like 2 days or something, and sold his laptop that had some music shit that we did. You know, so, but man, Chalmers Courts, man. I knew that was somewhere I could go get dope when you know what I mean? I was in Austin for like a year and a half, and I was having a great time. Like I was like doing music shit, doing shit like I was today, like pool parties and just kicking it and fucking smoking weed, drinking, you know, doing some cocaine here and there, you know, some shrooms. Like it was legit, you know what I mean? I was like, I had a blast. And then I wanted heroin, you know what I mean, after a year and a half. And so that's where I went and got my first bag, was at the Chalmers Courts. Now you mention it, yeah. So
the reason I ask you that is because back in the day, that area was dangerous.
Yeah. And some of those other projects too, like further out, all them projects over there, and like some of the ones, out on the east side further out. I forget what they're called, but my homie Abe Hernandez, he told me they used to be called Murder something, you know, back in the 90s. I think it was Booker T, And he was like, these used to be called Murder Row or some shit like in the 90s. And I was like, I believe you know what I mean? Like,
but it's
like the 90s were grimy, you know what I mean? Like, especially in Chicago, there was like a lot of gang sets on the corners and stuff. And they would do this thing called flagging. So they would like try to like, they would throw up, so like it's like people and folks, like, so it's like forks up or forks down, like,
sure,
so
I remember that.
Tags, so like
I was always a forks down, didn't even know what the fuck it meant.
right.
But it looked like a sigh, like.
Yes, yeah.
You know?
Dude, this one kid, this little Latin King brother I knew, like he was like, I taught him how to break dance and shit, and it was sad when he was like 6. I was like babysitting him and stuff, and like I was like, this little community center that me and some other homies opened up. It was like before I started doing hard drugs, and that was a really rad period in my life too. But I remember it was sad, dude. The first thing he drew was like an upside down pitchfork, all chicken scratch and shit. I was like, oh man, he's fucking 5, dude. You know what I mean? Like, and I knew him, you know, up until his 20s. You know what I mean? Seen him going in and out of jail, and you know, I let the Latin Kings have a party at this that community center that we opened. It was like an anarchist community center, you know. And I knew all the Kings and shit, like from the neighborhood, and like they would buy LSD off me when I come back from California, you know, because and the gangs up there are real tight. Like they can't do like hard drugs. Like if they touch any hard drugs, they get violated. Like they'll get a violation first.
Right.
But I remember, you know, addicts are everywhere, right? It doesn't matter what the fuck, you're a fucking gangster, fucking business dude, fucking, you know, punk or whatever, you know. So this one dude, Felix, I knew that was the Latin King. I remember he started stealing the pack of crack and shit, you know what I mean? I'd hear more and more about it. And we were standing in front of the D&D Liquors on the corner of Division and Damon, which was in Wicker Park, which is wild back in the day, but it's super yuppie now. But and a whole carload of Kings pulled up, dude. I never seen somebody run that fast in my fucking life, dog. Fucking Felix was like, whew. I was like, God damn, like his sneakers were left there and shit. You know what I mean? Like fool was gone. But it makes sense, you know what I mean? 5 of his fucking Latin King brothers jumped out, and they were gonna fucking beat the shit out of him. You know what I mean? Because like it probably went the first time. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But I always felt bad for him. You know what I mean? Like especially like, yeah, that's a hard situation. You know, like like in being in it in that type of gang, you know what I mean, and having substance use disorder because they just think you're a punk, you know what I mean?
Well, both of us know people who are a part of gangs that aren't necessarily.
But it's more chill down here. Like they do.
Them tied in. We don't see them working with them.
Right.
We know
they're connected and shit.
Yeah. So it's like maybe they got booted because they,
could be.
I wonder.
Yeah. I mean, and we've seen them kick it with some of them folks and shit. You know what I mean? Like, and it's probably like their family members and shit just kind of like keep them at bay. You know what I'm saying? They keep them out of their. They keep them out of their.
You can come say what's up.
Yeah, they keep them out of their business. They'll like maybe give them a little something here and there, but stay the fuck away from the crib. And you know what I mean? Like, don't get in the business. Yeah, because that's how people end up dead and shit. You know what I mean? And it could be like fucking family members that'll fucking have to like do it. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like if other people that are like dealing drugs with them, they might like, you know what I mean? Be like, dude, like he fucked up Winnie too many times, like, put our shit on blast or like whatever the fuck, acting crazy, and you know what I mean, or stole our shit, like, so you want to get rid of him or are we, it's crazy. I mean, that's the cold hard shit about drugs, you know what I mean? Like, and it's just like, I mean, it's that your mind, body, and soul shit, you know what I mean? It's like how, like what I'm putting in my body, like, and it's with food too, you know what I mean? If I fucking eat a bunch of McDonald's, like, it's gonna taste good, like at that moment, like, but when I crash from that shit, I'm gonna feel like shit. So I'm probably gonna like be shitty to people I cross, you know what I mean? Like, so it's when when I put poison in my body, like hard drugs or an alcohol, like
McDonald's.
Yeah, in McDonald's, and I would just but all that shit, like or a bunch of cigarettes, like. Mm-hmm. But if I'm sober, obviously I'm feeling better unless I'm like stressed out in early recovery or something. You know what I mean? Like if I'm going that fully abstinent route, it can be challenging at first, because you have no padding. You know what I'm saying?
So, did you come to Austin from Chicago?
No. I had been leaving Chicago and going back there since 1972. Before I moved to Austin, I was living in Connecticut, and I was living in the hood there too. Like, I don't know. I've been poor most of my life. Yeah, but actually, they were paying for my rent then. It was only like $250, but it was weird because Yale was right there, and then like the hood I lived in like started like 2 blocks before my building. And literally, like, it was like night and day, like super, like the super uber rich Ivy League people, and then all of a sudden, like straight up, like open air drug market in front of the bodega.
That's how it is in LA.
But you'd see some of them cats coming and getting it too. You know what I mean? Like these kids, like in Yale hoodies and shit, buying crack, and you know what I mean? Like, and actually too, I remember seeing that dude downstairs, like. Because East Coast they got the bodegas and they got the fucking awesome, like super cheap, like breakfast sandwiches and shit. You know what I mean? Like $1, and like so I'd always go down there and get one.
Have them over here and on the east side too.
Right. Yeah. Yep. So I seen that dude putting a crack rock on the sandwiches. You know what I mean? That's how he served it to this guy that was grabbing it or whatever. But so I was in Connecticut for 6 months, and I was kind of just like on and off dope then. I was kind of like miserable. It was like a winter in Connecticut, and like it was just like I was just like in this
out in that cold weather.
Yeah, and I was just like in this like really depressing neighborhood, and I was like trying to get into like New Haven and try to explore it and stuff, but it was just like it was like the epitome of capitalism. It was just like the Yale area, like I said, uber rich, and then the rest of that fucking city is all hood, dude. And they're not friendly, you know what I mean? Like they were like, no, what the fuck are you doing here? Like, cause feds and shit would come in there, you know what I mean? Like they didn't know if I was a fed, like trying to infiltrate and like take pictures. And
you were one. There weren't a lot of Caucasians.
Yeah, and that too. But I had a crazy like raver Caucasian dude that lived downstairs that had a fucking pill press down there, and I had to help him get it out before the cops were coming. And the cops surrounded that house another time. And my homie in the attic, who's like, oh man, I don't want to say his name. He's a big ass artist though from Brooklyn and shit. But he was living with me at the time, and he was like, he fucking called me. He's like, "Yo, Paul," he's like, "the fucking cops got the place surrounded. You know what I mean? Like, flush your shit," because I was selling herb, you know. And I like look out, and I was just like making sure, and I like saw him going into fucking taking the dude out from the first floor. It was this other guy. He was stealing. He was like an Adderall addict, and he worked at Planet Fitness. And he was going into people's lockers and shit and taking their credit cards and like taking their numbers. And homeboy was out on bond, like doing this shit. He was out on bond for that same shit, like you know. But that's the power, right, of that shit. Like, fuck it, I know I can get this money right now, and you know, and then I can feel the way I want to fucking feel, you know, like. But yeah, so I was like on and off with the dope there, but I kicked it, you know, a couple times too. I was mostly like smoking herb, and then I was in this. Hey, buddy, it's okay. He's guarding the homestead. Come on, gangster. Come here, baby. Come here. Come here. Come here, baby. Come on, baby. Oh, DJ Boo Boo. Yeah, I got him out of a suburban trap house, actually. It was hella depressing. Like, when I went to go get him, he was in a little cage, and there was, like, maggots in the bottom of the fucking cage. And, like, yeah, it was just really gross. So, yeah, we've been having a fucking great time. Like, he's helped keep me in bounds, you know what I mean? Like that's, like, he's been, like, the main thing I think about, like, when I, like, relapse, like, you got to come back. You know what I mean? Because it really affects, like, the animals and shit around us, too. Like, I mean, you know how it, like, affects our families. Anybody, it's just, like, this poison that just contaminates everything. And it was crazy, like, how, like, the clarity of the pain that he had when I started fucking doing heroin. Because I was sober when I got him. You know what I mean? Like, the first 9 months. And then I started relapsing and shit. But, yeah, I, like... I was like in an alley in San Antonio, and I was just like trying to hit a vein, and hadn't used in a long ass time, but my veins are shot from, you know, before, and he just looked at me like half disgusted and like half like in pain. I couldn't believe it. It was so, and then any other time too, when I would do it, like at the, like he'd just get super depressed, like he'd hang his head down, and it really affected his soul is just like, really in tune, you know what I mean? And then when I get off, he gets like hella happy, you know what I mean? It's cool. Yeah.
The dog. This one?
Yeah, Boo Boo, yeah.
Not the other one?
Oh, that was Luna. Luna was cool. But that was my ex-fiance's,
right.
Who I moved down here from Chicago with. But
so that's how
she left because, you know, I kept relapsing. When she met me, I was sober, and we met in Chicago. Like, we both had bands going, and our band... We're playing together at Reggie's, yeah, that's how we met there, and then yeah, she's a badass chick, man. Like,
so
I'm glad that. And dude, speaking of the dam, so she had put like after I started fucking relapsing and shit, she put a tracker on my phone, and I fucking was like, I escaped from her and my homeboy like Joey, like I slipped out the side door or something. Oh, at the apartment. That's how, like I was talking about, like. Going to, like, needing it, going to get it. I ran out of my fucking apartment when my homeboy was visiting from the West Coast, one of my best friends that I've known since he was 17, and, like, I was, like, 20-something. Cool. I'm old as fuck now, 52, you know what I mean? He's like my brother. But, yeah, I ran out the side, and I ran down to the dam, and I got some dope, and all of a sudden I turn around, and I just see fucking Carrie and Joey just fucking running down that fucking hill, and she just fucking... She was a tough broad, you know what I mean? Like, I seen her, like, get up on some people in Chicago, like, on some shit that, like, on dudes and shit that fucked with her homegirls or whatever, you know? But, yeah, she fucking socked me in the face. Yeah, and I respect it, you know what I mean? Like, you know, but she has a different view, you know what I mean? She's like, she has a different viewpoint about it. Like, I think that, you know, so she used to be a heroin addict, right? She was able to put it down like 8 years ago or something and be able to just like drink and smoke weed, you know what I mean? And like, I'm not like that. Like, I can do little bouts, you know, but like, when it comes down to it, I gotta be like, cause I'll go into some dumb shit, you know, like Planet K bullshit, like Delta 9, you know, or whatever, like CBD, you know what I mean? It's like, is this really, this is like some high school shit. Is this really worth it for me to be led back to fucking trying to find a vein and looking like a fucking horror show. You know what I mean? Like, and
So that's how you ended up in Austin, is moving with her?
No. I had moved to Austin like 10 years ago. Like, okay, so I was in Connecticut. I was working on the DIY Bandits label. They're mostly known for like this dude, Pat the Bunny. He's like Jesus to the like folk punk kids, which is funny because they're supposedly so anti-hero and shit. But no, I love the folk punk kids. But yeah, so anyways, I was working on that label. MC Soul from Anaconda was on there too, and I was actually working on some tracks with Chesky too, who's now in the Co-Defendants, which is a new project of Fat Mike's from NoFX, and the Get Dead Cats from Oakland and stuff like that. Myself, P.T. Burnham from Baltimore, and I-9, who is like Wu-Tang family now and shit. And he deserves it too. The kid is badass. He's from New Hampshire. But we formed a group called Icebox. And we put out, we recorded, we squatted this fucking cold ass place in fucking Dover, New Hampshire, kid. Yeah, like apartment they used to live in, and then like everybody moved out, but we like broke into it, and we're like, but it was like winter in New England. But like we had that spirit of music and that art, you know what I mean? And like both those cats are amazing fucking artists, you know? And like, so all of us together was rowdy as fuck, you know what I mean?
I've heard the name.
Icebox?
Burnham.
P.T. Burnham?
Close to that.
Yeah, you've probably seen him like connected on my stuff. Like we did a lot of touring together and shit. But anyway, so yeah, we were in Icebox. We started doing a bunch of dates in the Northeast. And at that time, I was like, drinking and smoking weed, and I grew up in the streets, so like I have a hard time like kind of getting the streets out of me, you know what I mean? Like it took me a long time to not like react on some street shit, you know, like it was harder than it was almost. I would say it was just about as hard as quitting drugs, like, and that was. I know I'm kind of jumping around, but I said like the first time I got real sobriety was in Portland, Oregon. And shout out to my homeboy Danny Belrose. He's like on that show Portlandia. He's been in a bunch of movies and shit. He said he's in some new. Yeah. And Fred Armisen too. I know that cat too from Wicker Park, where the Kings were, and where my homie Felix got chased by them and shit, like because it used to be grimy over there. And Fred lived there before he like blew up on Saturday Night Live, and you know, just weird, funny. Like he was one of them dudes you would just like, you know, like you're. I don't know, like Chicago's more of walking around, you know what I mean, kicking in the neighborhood, get your spots and shit, you know what I mean? But he was one of them dudes you'd be like stoked to see in the neighborhood, you know, like grabbing breakfast somewhere at a diner or whatever, you know, because he was funny as fuck, you know, and like real positive cat, you know. But whatever, little side note, Fred Armisen's my homie.
You had some sober time in Austin.
Yeah, okay, so.
Like 5 years?
Yeah, so Icebox did a fucking month and a half East Coast tour, which was insane. Fucking us, like, literally, like, we were just, like, smashing through cities and shit, like, rowdy as fuck, dude. Like, yeah, just, like, threatened fucking hipsters, like, to throw them down the stairs and shit. But, we had fun, man. It was fun. But, okay, real quickly, I got sidetracked by Fred and Danny B. But Danny B, my homie from the show Portlandia and a couple other things, he had got me to come out to Portland because he moved out there from Chicago. And he had been through some of that shit, like Cook County. He knew what Cook County jail was like. And he knew I was going there a lot. And, you know, I seen people die, you know what I mean? Like... Goddamn, I'm all over the place, but I saw someone die from methadone withdrawal when I just hit the deck, and I was on methadone at that time. And I fucking was up for 21 days. I couldn't sleep, and I was smashing my face against the bars, trying to knock myself out. And the thing is, there was a sheriff sitting right there, too. That dude was fucking fish flopping off the ground, and people were like, yo, help him. And that cop was like, I don't give a fuck. Went back to fucking writing, dog. Like that, and dude died. But anyways, yeah. So he knew it's hard. It's the street life is fucking extra in Chicago. Everybody knows that shit. You know, it's got the reputation for it, and it's not hype. You know, But anyway, so Danny B, he was like, yo, come out to Portland, because I just got out of my longest stint at Cook County Jail, which was like 5 months there. And like it was like Halloween, my birthday, like Thanksgiving, like all the holidays, Christmas, New Year's, you know, like, yeah, you know, I'm a non-gang member, you know, it's called Neutron in Chicago, Neutron.
Everybody else is a gang member.
Yeah, they would line up the folks on this side, the people on the side, and then the Neutrons in the middle, and pretty much every.
You guys had your own pod.
No, we were mixed in with everybody else, and so every Neutron, literally except for myself, like got fucked with. And I just lucked out every time because I knew like chiefs and shit. Like I knew the chief of the Spanish Cobras, I knew Kings, and I would just luck out, dude. I'd get in them bullpens that it takes like 24 hours to get up into the deck, like there, because it's so many people and it's just nuts, and they're trying to get people's gang bullshit. Yeah, fucking as many times as I was in there, and never got hands put on me except for by guards and shit. You know what I mean? Because they're bitches and shit. They'll punch you in the back of the head. You know what I mean? Like that's why they get that job. You know? But yeah. So you know, you know, I was going to places like that, and like Haymarket, which I got a lot of love for, but it's like the state detox in Chicago. You know, so you can imagine it's pretty like it's like 100 cots. You know what I mean? It's just pretty much like almost like the county jail.
Cots in a detox?
Cots, yeah, like just a bunch of cots, yeah.
Cot?
Cots.
Oh, cots.
Yeah.
I was like, cots
yeah.
in a detox.
Yeah, no cots.
Yeah, no,
but
I've been in places like that in Houston.
Yeah, same shit. Yeah, so but Portland's got a lot of amazing fucking programs, and you know, I did that 5 months, and then I went through this program called ATI at Haymarket, which was alternative to incarceration. Even though I was already incarcerated, I was going to go to prison for 2 years. Instead of going to prison for 2 years, I went in that program. My girlfriend at the time paid $450 on some bullshit, and we had to wear like pink jumpsuits and shit. And Oprah Winfrey's studio was next door, and we had to go at 5 a.m. and fucking pick up cigarettes butts around Oprah Winfrey's studio every fucking morning, and like scrub the toilets. Like it was a 5-story rehab, you know what I mean? A block. It took up a city block, you know what I mean? A huge ass joint, you know? We had to clean the toilets and all that bullshit.
You
like,
got sober time under your belt.
Dude, I learned some shit in there, bro. Like, you know what I mean? Like with cleaning and, you know? Because I was fucking cleaning fucking nasty ass fucking detox toilet with a fucking toothbrush, bro. Yeah. Wearing a fucking pink jumpsuit and shit, you know what I mean? So yeah, it definitely like it taught me, you know, some humility and gratitude and shit like that. But I got out of there. I was on probation, and I started fucking relapsing, dude. And I was gonna go to prison, you know. So Danny was like, "Yo, come out to Portland, man." He's like, "I got you. You know, there's like programs you can get into and shit." And yeah, so I took the train out there. I had a couple of them methadone wafers to like hold me, you know. And yeah, got out there. I was in this detox. It was called Hooper Detox. Fucking legendary out there on Burnside Avenue, which is legendary too. Like everybody knows about Burnside. Yeah, Burnside.
I know the skate park.
Yeah, Burnside Skate Park, which is one of my homies was like one of the people that built that, and that's like a real ass like, you know what I mean? Those West Coast cats are like locals only. You know what I mean? Like they're cool if you know what I mean. You gotta like show and prove though. You can't be on some bullshit and come up in their spot. You know what I mean? Yeah. So like, you know, it's kind of cool. It's pretty like gangster, you know, like, yeah. So I was in this like detox called the Hooper Detox. It was right across from the Burnside Skate Park. As a matter of fact, it was looking down at it and shit. And you could go in the fucking. That was the first time I ever had Suboxone, and oh my god, you know what I mean? I was like, thank God. Right. Thank God they came up with something better than methadone.
And the first time you take it, you're like,
dude,
I feel great. Like,
dude, because I get kicked cold turkey so many times, like in environments like the Cook County Jail and shit. You know what I mean? I could never do a kick like that. Like in my 50s, fuck no, I'd fucking hang myself. Straight up, like, and people do that, you know, like they can't make it through them withdrawals, like especially from the China White and shit, like. There's one kid, he fucking chopped off his leg because you get the weird leg thing from China White when you're kicking it. Like, it's, yeah, there's some extra weird shit. It's like different than tar a couple ways, but same too. But, yeah. And when I was fiending for that shit too, you know, like, Okay. So back to Portland. So I did 17 days in this detox, and there's a bunch of cool motherfuckers in there, like cool ass, like old school Portlanders,
By
you know, like
17 days,
weirdos
you
and
were
shit.
probably pretty detoxed.
Yeah, but it took a while. It was 13 days, I remember, till I like finally got a little bit of sleep, because I was coming off a mean fucking habit, dude. Like mean, like that's the thing too.
days.
Like the dope in Chicago is like, it's just like the city, like, you know what I mean? Like it's fucking extra. You know what I'm saying? It's like very powerful. Yeah, like they'll have maps and shit, like in the paper, like in the news, like when they show it, and they'll be like, they'll show a map of a few blocks, like on the west side, and then they'll be like, show like dead body here, 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 because like there was too much fentanyl in the bags that day. You know what I mean? It's fucking just like a fucking graveyard, dog. Like, and that'd be like kind of common and shit.
How long ago was this?
Let's see, I got to Portland in 08. 08, yeah. And I gotta mention, part of my story is, and I wouldn't be alive if it weren't for this, ibogaine. So ibogaine is a very strong hallucinogenic that shamans use in Africa and Latin America. And it comes from a root from this tree.
I made him watch a documentary on it.
Oh, dope. Yeah, my girlfriend at the time, she did her final thesis at Columbia College on ibogaine. Yeah, it was dope. Like,
Heard about the stories they're doing on it? I mean, the studies they're doing it now. They're doing like college studies where people go and they're putting them in and.
Oh, I would love to go do that.
Medicated doses, and they're all coming out and telling stories of the same people, and so they're making a map. They think it's like a world.
Well, it is. I mean, it is. Like, you're tapping into this, like, yeah, wow. Okay, so ibogaine, unfortunately, our dumbass government has it as it's classified the same as heroin. And it's the antithesis of that, and that's because, you know, like the pharmaceutical industry and all the opiates that they sell, ibogaine would really like cut into their profits. But anyway, so you got to go to Mexico or Costa Rica or 90 miles off of the Florida coast. You can do it in a boat over there. I didn't have the money to do that. It was like 2 stacks or 3 stacks, you know, like 3,000 or whatever. And so I was like, look, dog, like, I don't have that much money. I have $800. And he was like, okay, send it to me. And he sent it to me, dude. Like, he sent it to me, bro. And I was like, yeah, because I was like, you know, I was from the streets and shit, so I don't trust nobody.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Especially $800. But this dude is rad. He's been a fucking renegade, like, running around the state. He's like an old hippie and shit. And he's been, like, hooking people up around the States. Like, some other people, too, like, got hooked up and shit. Like, but, yeah, like, so there was in these different capsules, like, it was the root was crushed and shit. And so it had specific instructions for my girlfriend. Oh, you know what is funny? It came in an old cassette. It came in a cassette box. But I just thought about that. Like, I remember, like, opening it.
Yeah, that's how they do it.
Yeah, no, well, it's one way, yeah.
I mean, like,
yeah.
I remember buying marijuana seeds, and it came in a floppy disk.
Right, yeah. Got fucking really strong MDMA back in the day, like powder form, like the sassafras and shit, like from Amsterdam. We get sent over in shampoo bottles. And it was funny too, because our dude was like, he got busted by the Chicago PD for like, and we moved pills with him and shit. And he just bounced to fucking Amsterdam, then started shipping us fucking weight. Mm-hmm. And yeah, we never got busted either, you know what I mean? Yeah.
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
So where did you find the best dope, the best heroin?
Chicago.
Yeah?
Yeah, hands down. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Portland's pretty strong too.
Yeah.
And in Montreal.
Mine was LA, Portland was second.
Yeah, the LA shit was okay. Where'd you go, Skid Row?
The Valley, like.
Oh, you're out there.
Ventura Boulevard.
Damn.
Yeah.
Sounds sketch.
Yeah.
I mean, Skid Row is sketch as fuck, but you know you could get drugs there and the cops aren't going to do anything.
It was the cartel. So I would talk to someone on the phone and say,
Oh, I remember this. Yeah, yeah.
And they'd
I remember the story.
exit Winnetka, take right, first left, second right, drive 100 yards, park,
Right, yeah.
start walking.
Hella specific
and
shit.
a van would drive by and you'd hop in and
Right.
get some illegals, and they'd serve you up huge.
Undocumented,
and then, of course, like 2 weeks later, it would be a different person because that person got busted and deported.
Yeah.
You
I know.
know?
I always felt for those cats, man. Like, before I got into that Hooper detox in Portland, I had to get myself well. So my homeboy's girlfriend, she had substance use disorder too, and she was clean as well. They were both doing Narcotics Anonymous. So I was just following my homie's lead, because I knew him from Chicago getting high and stuff. And but yeah, she hooked me up with this Nicaraguan dude, and their dope was garbage, but it like held me over, and like he ended up like when I relapsed, like a few years later or whatever, like he got deported. He was just a nice dude. He was just trying to make it, man. You know what I mean? Like he's from Honduras.
Sure.
That place is so fucked.
We've been.
Oh yeah. Oh, I think it's up.
No,
Yeah. Right.
It's
Isn't
wild.
it fucking poor as shit? Right.
Yeah, very, very.
Yeah.
And we got to drive through all the city and the residential, if you want, that's what you want to call it.
Oh, like the
areas.
favelas and shit.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I could smell the dope. I mean, I knew there was drugs
Like manufacturing.
everywhere.
Oh yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
There
Right,
were like
right.
fishing villages and.
Right. And
Right.
community and whole communities that like live off that industry and shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like I knew there was a bunch of dope.
Right. Yeah.
The guy at the resort was like trying to hang out with him.
Yeah. But like back to Portland. So 17 days in the Hooper detox, and then I was waiting to get in this program. It was called the Mentor Program, and it was started by these two brothers that were like these gangsters from two white boys from the east side of Portland and shit, like old school gangsters from over there. It's called the Felony Flats. That neighborhood used to be called, and of course it's yuppie now, right?
Sure.
But David Fitzgerald. So I would go talk to him at the program, and he's like, no bed yet. So I had to stay in this fucking homeless shelter in Chinatown in Portland for 17 days. So, a lot of people a lot of fights, and I had to keep my cool, you know what I mean? Like, because, people, quote unquote cross me or whatever. Just don't. It's right. Like there's no reason for me to fight these days unless
You're trying to get.
unless I gotta survive.
Yeah.
Like I'm not gonna fight somebody on some ego shit. You know what I mean? But back in the day, I did. And
Right.
it was really hard to shed that shit. And that's kind of like where I'm getting to too. Like, so after being in there for 17 days, made it like a lot of challenges. It was all challenging being in that detox for 17 days, challenging being in, the homeless shelter for 17 days with like, anyways, I finally got into this place, the Mentor Program, and these two brothers started it while they were locked up at in the Oregon State Prison. They both did a dime. They both did 10 years, and they came up with this idea like, oh, we got to do something. You know what I mean? Like, because substance use disorder brought them to, brought them both to the cage, for 10 years. You know what I mean? And so they fucking came up with this idea. They came up with this, like, its own program, like the Mentor Program. And so David Fitzgerald was my mentor. He's like, calls me up. He's like, yeah, we got the bed, dude. And I was like, oh, cool. I went over the way they gave me the directions and shit. It was like a fucking brand new 8-story building, like on fucking Burnside, dog. Like, and I had my own, like, it wasn't a 1-bedroom. It was like my own fucking studio apartment, dog. Mm-hmm. I couldn't believe it. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, holy shit. I kept like expecting like to get kicked out of there. Like every time I'd come home because I had a key, and even though I had so much like trauma from like always being bad and getting kicked out of places and shit, you know what I mean? Even though I was sober and I was doing good, like, man, I had that paranoia for like 6 months there. Kept thinking there was going to be a note under the door, like, you got to go, dog. even though I never broke any of their rules and shit, you know, they treated me like a human. It was weird. I wasn't used to that, you know. I was used to fucking getting punched in the back of the head by Chicago PD or the goons at the fucking county and shit, the dummies over there. But, yeah, so that was the first time, and it was challenging. Like, that first 90 days, woof, it was challenging. But, so what I liked about the mentor program, I would go see, so the women, they had a mentor. You know what I mean? There was a woman mentor, or like a couple of them. And then for the dudes, there was 2 mentors too. Mine fortunately, was David Fitzgerald, because I didn't get along with his brother and shit. He was like more rednecky, and, you know, I was like punk and shit. You know what I mean? Like, we just kind of rubbed each other a little wrong. But, yeah, he would be like, come see me every morning. Don't steal nothing. Don't put your hands on nobody. And don't come see me tomorrow. Mm-hmm. Dude, so dope, bro. Like, because I really had to do the, because I'm addicted to, like, criminality too, you know what I mean? So I had to, like, stop boosting, you know? Like, I used to love doing that shit. It was like a rush, you know? Like, yeah, and not putting my hands on, you know, somebody who was like, that was real rough too, because I would, like, go to some clubs and shit, and some, like, kind of like Boulder, Colorado type dorks or something would try to front on me, and I just wanted to fucking smash them all. Normally I would, but I couldn't, because I was trying to, like, I was giving this shit a go, you know what I mean? And I'm so glad that I did, and didn't, you know, fucking throw it away over some dumb fucking fight at a club, you know what I mean? It's like, get away from that shit, you know, shit that was so important to, you know, that street cred and all that bullshit back in the day. But, you know, it's survival shit, you know, you put up your installation. And just real quick, going back to New Haven, that moment that I was there, and I was sitting there, like, from my second floor window, like, watching the dope spot and the, you know, gang banging that was going on, some people yelling out different sets and shit like that. And I was just like, oh shit, dude, like this ain't tough. Like, this is all driven by fear. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's gnarly, you know what I mean? They're shooting, you know what I mean? Like, you can die out there and shit, but like, the root of it is fear. And that's what, you know, because they want to bark the loudest, you know what I mean? Yeah, that's like him. Sure. Like, you know, like little dude, like when we see street dogs, because there's a lot of them where we live in Southeast San Antonio. And, you know, so he just right away to, you know what I mean? Like, so just putting up that insulation and, you know, but anyways.
No, and it's like, I heard this from somebody. If somebody wants to fight you, that means they want your validation. Like, I'm gonna kick your ass, dude.
Yeah. No, literally.
Because you want the.
Literally.
Want your validation.
No, for real. Like, I've had dummies do that, and then when I came looking for him in the neighborhood with a 2x4 or something, they're like, "Oh, that dude, okay, he's psycho." Like, then they're like, "Okay, it's cool." Like,
if you
not fucking with you anymore.
Or no problems, you just move on your way and not even care.
Yeah, you know, and especially like getting older, but it's crazy. Like, there's still sometimes where like I want to put my hands on some people, you know what I mean? Like, you know, they cry. Unfortunately, I don't, you know. It just kind of stays in here, or like I tell them, you know, go fuck themselves or some shit, you know what I mean? And, you know, but yeah, keep it, you know, outside of the violence. Like, so that was the first time I got some real sobriety. It was in Portland, Oregon. They got that mentor program was so fucking cool because it addressed the street shit too, which I really liked, you know, like, because so many like programs lack that, you know. And like the street element and the criminality like go hand in hand with the drug lifestyle, and not necessarily for everybody, because there's some people that aren't involved in that and they just like get their pills from their doctor or whatever and buy their liquor legally at some, you know what I mean? But for a lot of us, you know what I mean? I know for you too and shit. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like,
it's different.
But
addicted to the hustle.
Yeah, and you gotta have it, you know, otherwise you get hella sick.
Hanging out in those neighborhoods, you either gotta be tough or get taken care of, you know.
Right. Someone's gonna take your shit. Yeah.
You know?
Like when I was in the Cook County Jail, literally like, and I hate it. Like, I'm kind of snickering, but like it's fucked up. Like, but the other neutrons that weren't gang affiliated and shit, like they'd go get their commissary. And like a guard would hand it to him, and a fucking like a GD or some shit, or Vice or whatever, just like right in front of the cop, dude, fucking snatch that shit, and just that was it. You know what I mean? Like,
cop didn't do nothing.
Yeah, you know. So I was always grateful, like fucking, Yeah, I never got my fucking hands put on me over there. But yeah, 2 years I got out of that in Portland. Yeah, it was a wild ride. I started putting out music again. I used to go by MC Think back in the day, like in the 90s when I first put out my couple vinyls. I was on this label out of Chula Vista, California. It's like a suburb of San Diego.
Right by Tijuana.
Yeah. Vinyl Communications. So they put out my first couple records, which was real cool. Dave Ed, the bass player from Neurosis, hooked it up, and that was just a weird fucking thing too, because Neurosis is awesome, and yeah. So like Dave played bass, dubbed out bass shit for me, on some rap shit, which is wild because anybody knows Neurosis is you know what I mean? But yeah. So but yeah, that 2 years was really fucking cool. It was real challenging. I grew a lot. I also stayed like a punk ass a lot too. You know what I mean? When I think about it now, reflecting on that time, but I was growing. You know what I mean? Because I'd fucking been putting shit in my body and not, my mom had passed, you know what I mean? So I was just all the trauma from when I was young, street violence. I seen people I'm the last person that some people saw before they died. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
And I'm not saying that I killed them and shit. I just, I literally have been there when someone was riddled with bullets and I'm ambulance is on the way, you know what I mean? Trying to calm them down and shit, and then they went out,
Okay.
But yeah, so all that trauma, you know what I mean? Stuff it down with drugs, and so I finally started dealing with some of that trauma was really that's what I like too about Portland. They did some some kind of healing and shit, yoga. Mm-hmm. And acupuncture was part of the program.
Yeah.
And dude, I got really into the yoga and
Did they just put them behind your ear?
Yeah. Or you tell them what's hurting and they'll hit it forehead and stuff. But they had this nice room there. Yeah, fucking little fake waterfalls and nice chairs. It was fucking amazing. But I ended up pursuing a yoga teaching certificate and ended up getting it. So I'm certified legit. But that was a big part, and I'm a real fucking addict, you know what I mean? Like I said, I ran out of the fucking crib, to get one, you know what I mean? And that was in a little relapse, and I remember one time getting out of this fucked up place in Chicago, and I almost carjacked this lady, you know what I mean? And I'm so glad I didn't, but it was there. You know what I mean? The vision was there, just this monster reaching, pulling this fucking screaming lady out. You know what I mean? And fortunately I didn't do it, but yeah, that's that immediate, shit with opiates, and that's the thing with, because it's hard to, props to anybody that's watching this that has fucking gotten clean off opiates, whether you're fucking fully abstinent, 12-step, or fucking harm reduction, or you fucking smoke weed and drink now, whatever, props, you're not sticking a fucking needle in your neck, and that's fucking so hard, it kills most people, and especially now, with the fentanyl and this fucking xylazine shit. Jeez. Oh my God, dude. Have you guys seen the pictures of these? Good Lord, dude.
Yeah.
It's that crocodile shit from Russia and shit, you know what I mean? Just fucking people look like fucking, you see their flesh all,
Yeah.
Nar. I'm glad it, oh really? Yeah. Is it turning up in Austin? I was wondering, because I haven't seen it.
It's here in Austin. Because
I hung out a few times in the streets in San Antonio and the West Side. I know a couple cats from that, just getting high, acquaintances when I would go back out for a few days or whatever, you know what I mean? But I didn't see it. over there.
No, yeah.
But you seen it here?
Yeah, and I do believe it's what killed Razor because
rest in peace.
It was green. He said the dope was green. It was this green stuff that was going around.
Weird. Yeah.
Everyone said they didn't like it. And then that's the day he died. And, I was watching a documentary that says it comes in colors.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
They diet to...
Yeah, I'm just,
Yeah. But I also saw I have an interview with a homeboy, and his pictures are on there where his just both of his arms just broke out in just these sores. Just
yeah, because you shoot it and it doesn't break out there. It breaks out somewhere else in your body, which is fucking weird, yo. Yeah. Anyways, fucking nar. Like, I'm glad I fucking wasn't like in a like extreme active addiction, like just like the love for heroin at that time. You know what I mean? Because I mean, there's a part of me that still loves it. Obviously, I love it. You know what I mean? Like, I like that. I like that feeling, but I can't deal with the consequences, and it doesn't work like it used to. I mean, yeah.
Would you disagree when I say it's nothing like it was 10 years ago?
Well, like shooting heroin wasn't playing Russian roulette enough, and then with fentanyl, like 50 times stronger. Like I fell out after my 5.5 years when I was in Chicago. Mm-hmm. I was relapsing on snorting bags of China White. I fell out on a dime bag. I woke up in the ambo, and they hit me with the Narcan, like, from sniffing a fucking half of a 10 bag, dude. Like, that shit. And I'm an IV user. Fortunately, I knew enough. I was smart enough not to pick up a needle because I knew, I heard about the dope in Chicago. I used to do it back in the day, but I left. You know what I mean? And then fentanyl came through, and I was like, dude, do not pick up a needle, you know? And but I overdosed twice on snorting that shit, like in like 3 months, real quick. 12 hours. In 12 hours, this is how just doing one got me. So I was like on Suboxone. I was doing pretty good. I was like harm reduction, smoking herb, clean and shit. I went on this West Coast tour, and then 12 hours from when I got back from the West Coast tour, I was like, you know what? I could probably sniff a bag and shit. And my homegirl, she lived in Humboldt Park. It's like this Puerto Rican neighborhood, right next to the West Side and shit. So I went and copped, and like literally, I snorted a line, and fucking, I came around the block. I destroyed my Ford Escape. It was the first like legal vehicle I ever owned, and I got it because I was sober for 5.5 years and paid $18,000 fucking dollars for it, which I've never seen in my life. Sure. You know what I mean? Like, and killed it, smashed it in this Honduran dude, and fucking so ruined my vehicle that it had taken me so long to get, and it was really nice, but had a warrant out of Denver, which I like from 20 years old, like a $50,000 bond, which I finally took care of last summer, thank God. Shout out to Daniel Medina, author of Below Sycamore, with fucking Daniel Trejo and fucking Mr. Criminal, cool motherfuckers. But I'm sorry, where was I?
You were talking.
Had the warrant.
Had a
So yeah, okay, to 12 hours. I'm thinking I could do one. Fucking destroyed my vehicle. It was beyond drivable. The cops took me away on a fucking warrant. I get out. Oh, my girlfriend threw me out right away. That was the first thing that happened. My girlfriend at the time threw me out, and that's why I jumped in the whip. Like, it was tried to drive, and and blacked out. But yeah. So destroyed my vehicle. Got kicked out by my girlfriend. Destroyed my vehicle. Went to jail. And I got out, and I was like, I'm going to walk to the West Side, which was like 6 miles from this. I was in the 12th precinct where they took me. It's like a different neighborhood and shit. So I walked like 6 miles to the West Side, and I bought like a dub or whatever, and I went in this alley, and I fucking snorted it. And thank God I made it out of the alley, dude. Like, otherwise I'd be dead. Like, I snorted like half of that 20 bag, and I woke up in the ambo again. Mm-hmm. And as anybody knows, like, it's such a traumatic experience. Like any like withdrawing is so traumatic, especially if it's like
your ass.
Yeah, and then Narcan too. That's like a hella traumatic experience because you're just like you go into this one like murky world, and then all of a sudden you're just like into this bright ass like painful world. Like in 2 seconds. Yeah. It's fucking it fucks you up. You know what I mean? Like it takes its toll, and like, so I've had 12 overdoses. I used to say I'm real lucky and shit like that, but I started
overdoses.
Yeah, like real ones, getting Narcan and shit. Yeah,
because
ended up in ambos or at the hospital, or ambo first and then the hospital.
I remember hearing about a guy that we know that's no longer with us.
Oh yeah, Razor, rest in peace.
When you fell out. and then woke up with none of your stuff. And you went back to the camp, and they all had it.
Yeah, yeah. And they gave me back.
That an overdose, or would you just say you?
I would say I fell out because nobody hit me with Narcan and shit. Like I don't consider that like just falling out and then being able to wake up on it from my own. No, I don't consider that an overdose.
Don't you think that they would have hit you with Narcan? I mean,
I think Boo Boo, not my dog, but
right.
Boo Boo, we know from the streets. Like he hit me with Narcan once.
I remember.
At the 5th Street spot.
Right,
the encampment.
Right when we started working.
Yeah. But yeah, I used to say I was lucky a lot because I started being like a little more open-minded about like the higher power thing. Like I like the like Lakota thing, like walking Tonka, like the Great Spirit thing. It's like you, me, like the sky and all that are connected and shit like that, and so like it's been about a year now that I've been like, and I'll just call it God, to keep it simple, you know what I mean, which used to make my blood boil. Kept me out of the rooms for a long time, you know what I mean, just because, and a lot of us, you know what I mean, like we have trauma from fucking fucked up religions where they fucking judge everybody and treat them like shit, you know what I mean, or fucking touch kids and fucking hide the priest and move to another one where they can touch more, all that bullshit, there's a lot of stuff around it, so it's hard.
Religious trauma.
There you go, religious trauma, yeah, for sure, so it's hard to, like, for a lot of us to find our way around to, like, spirituality, you know what I mean? But, like, yeah, since I found that, started messing with God and, like, praying in the morning, like, it's been awesome, like, I feel more comfortable, you know what I mean? Like, even, like, in my relapses, like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't feel as like, you know what I'm saying? Like, everything's just fucking,
you feel a little more
the end of the world, like, I feel more comfortable, you know what I mean? Like, and when I tap into it, and it's always been a really good, like, foundation for me, like, when I wake up in the morning and the first thing I do is either, like, meditate, gracias por todo, thanks for everything, make sure I give thanks, and then, like, ask God to direct me because, like, if I'm driving, it's going to be fucked up. Like, even if I'm not shooting heroin, you know what I mean?
Sure.
Then it's going to be, like, whatever, all that street shit,
The camera's got, like, 5 minutes left.
Okay, cool. All right, so...
I got some questions I want to ask you.
Okay.
Is there something you want to say?
Yeah, no. I just, I think it's cool to, like, keep it real and stuff and, like, talk about these things, like, at a lot of 12-step meetings, they say, like, oh, you don't want to talk about the war stories and shit. It's like, you talk about these things, and it's like, it reminds you where you want to stay away from, Like, talking about this shit tonight, like, I'm like, and you too, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, and it also, like, it's like going to a meeting, getting reminded all the time, because, like, a lot of people with substance use disorder, alcoholism, like, we're really good at forgetting. I mean, I can't tell you how many times, like I was saying, it's traumatic to fucking go through withdrawals of opiates. Like there was, I wanted to kill myself several times. I mean, like, my new song, Suicide, that's out, is about that, like, but I hung on, you know what I mean? Because I know there's sobriety, and fortunately I've had a taste of it, you know what I mean? Or recovery, like, and then, so I'm just super glad because that there is something, there is a way out, and, there's in multiple pathways, which, working with you as a co-worker at Communities for Recovery, going through the recovery coach stuff, like, totally opened my mind, so awesome. And it was funny watching, like, everybody in there glitch out, including myself, like, when they were talking about, like, there's other shit than the 12-step. You know what I mean? Yeah. We're like, we're like, yeah. Yeah, that's not what the angry old guy says at the meeting, the meeting I go to.
You're in San Antonio right now.
Mm-hmm.
You've had a couple experiences with using
a few recurrences.
Yeah. Or local fentanyl.
Yeah.
But so, what do you think about the drugs now?
Oh my God.
The heroin now, or just all the drugs now, compared to...
Well, some of the stories too about me bugging out with the vatos and shit on the east side, like, whenever I mixed meth in my fucking heroin, and they were all like,
They're like, dude,
Like, yo, por favor, don't be doing that shit, bro. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and these are guys that live in the fucking alley, basically.
Yeah.
They're like homeless, like with substance use disorder, and like honestly, like, you know, unfortunately, like a lot of them are lifers, and that's okay. We still love them. You know what I mean? Like, they're good people, and like, but yeah, like these cats are like dog, like, because I don't know what it is about that like new cartel meth, but like I can do the littlest bit and mix it, and I'm talking about, and I wouldn't do it on its own. I mixed it with heroin, and it just some weird fucking. I glitch out and I just go insane. I black out, and people are like, dude, like, yo, like you're scaring people and shit. Like I threw that Colombian dude like down the hill at one of the encampments and shit. Poor bastard. He like, I came out of a blackout and like, I'm like, what? I see Razor. He's standing there to the next to me. He's like, man, you fucking threw that guy down the hill and shit. Like, and I'm looking over at the Colombian guy with dreadlocks and shit. I don't know if you remember that fool, but I was like, he's like looking all hurt and scared. And I was like, oh man, like, dude, that sucks, yo. You know what I mean? I don't mean like on some asshole shit like that. But yeah. So I stay away from that because.
Watch the Chris Gates video. You'll figure out why.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, I love Chris Gates.
Really,
shout out right there.
Really has like knowledge about everything that you just said.
Fucking Chris is awesome.
And why you did that and why your mind went there. It's in that video.
That's what I love. Yeah, there's Chris has depth, and I like his like approach to recovery too. And he's an old school punk rocker. Like I actually used to listen to him when I was a teenager. His band Big Boys, they're legendary punks, like not just in Austin, you know what I mean, but like they're known, you know what I mean. Like,
are you taking it one day at a time, or okay?
Yeah.
What? Okay, in 5 years. Okay, let's say 2 to 5 years. What do you want your story to look like? What do you want Paulie's story to look like in 5 years?
Right now,
what do you want your life to be?
Yeah, so after the 5.5 years, like the first relapse that happened was I had an injury and I went into the emergency room and they gave me opiates, and I had taken those successfully in sobriety before with like way less time, but they also put like benzos in there too. So I blacked out from the benzos, and then the opiates woke that fucking vicious demon that had been sleeping in me for 5.5 years. Next thing I know, it was 3 days later when I came to. I remember going into the emergency room, and then 3 days later, I remember coming to, and I was standing in a dope line on the west side of Chicago. So I was out there fucking running around the fucking hood of Chicago for fucking 3 days in a blackout, dude. What the fuck? You know what I mean? Like, how did I not die? And that's God, you know what I mean? To me now, like, that's what I believe. That's amazing, like, higher powers held me. Yeah. No, that was a different one. That happened too. Yeah, I relapsed after that one too. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, that's right. After I got the new hip. Yeah, I relapsed after that. Yeah.
Pulling up shit on you in the parking lot, and it was just odd. And we were talking, and I was like,
yeah.
I know what time it is.
Yeah. But no, what I want to do is, I just want to like, I'm going to give the 12-step thing a shot again, because that's what worked for me. 5.5 years. I fully support any kind of pathway to recovery in whatever level you want it at and shit, you know what I mean? Like, whatever makes you happy, but yeah, that's what made me happy, you know what I mean? And I was able to do things. I was able to buy, a vehicle for 18 G's. I was able to like fucking take a bunch of skateboards to Puerto Rico and fucking donate them to the orphanages there. You know what I mean? Just do badass shit, Hurricane Harvey happened in Houston. I fucking filled up my whip. I had a Ford Escape, old school one, so fucking bunch of the homies in Chicago that own pet stores and shit donated, filled that fucker up with supplies, dove down, you know what I mean? Drove down to fucking Houston, was fucking hooking up dogs that were fucking homeless with unkempt fur, like looking like, what the fuck just happened in their eyes, you know what I mean? It was so wild, because they just got washed across the city. They're like, what the fuck, And then like, so just doing that shit, like that's my favorite service work. I think service work and recovery is really cool, but like the thing that I found most I can't think of the word, fulfilling. But what's that?
Fulfilling. Yeah,
fulfilling. Is like doing like service work on the world stage level. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
If you had one thing to say, just real quick, to the generation that's thinking about going down the road that we went down, what would it be, and what are your shout outs?
Yeah. I would say, yeah, like, it's a trap, you know what I mean? Like, just like, get out of that life, like, however you can, you know what I mean? And another thing that guy from the mentor program taught me that fucking, I always loved, dude. And like I said, they tied the street shit and criminality into that program too, so I loved it. But he would always say, like, if the drugs don't get you, the lifestyle will. You know what I mean? Like, and that's the thing too, like, I was dealing weed, you know what I mean, when I was sober, like on a big level before it was like decriminalized in Chicago.
25 sec.
Like, yeah, but anyways, shout out to my homie Abby, fucking being my solid ass only fucking sober homie in San Antonio. That's why I'm coming back to Austin, because I need a lot of folks, you know what I mean? Like, I need to hang out with y'all and, you know, a bunch of other people, you know, from Communities for Recovery and